All right, we are back live. We are back live. I wait for a few people to join the chat before I really get started, man. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. If you are new, hit that subscribe button. Also, hit the like button if you enjoyed the content. Please share the video if you can on your social media platforms. All right. Today we're just gonna do a recap of the fight. It's not gonna be a long live. I was here yesterday covering the fights, both cards, the Richardson Hitchins card against Jose Zepeda. We got to see the return of Conor Benn last night. And I also covered the ESPN Plus card with Zhang defeating Joyce, stopping him in the third round with one of the better knockouts of the year. All right, so I'm just gonna go over a little bit about that and with these fighters moving forward. You know, if you were here last night, you've heard what I've said and my thoughts on fights that I wanted to see. But you know, after watching a couple of interviews and looking at the options, you know, I wanted to go a little bit deeper into all that. It's not going to be a long live, but I just wanted to chat a little bit about that. Okay. Also, before we get started, I wanted to go over some of the fights that's coming up this weekend, and you know, I should be here to cover all fights this weekend. Of course, we have the big fight between Jamel Charlo and Canelo Alvarez. That's going to be on Showtime pay-per-view this Saturday evening, and it has a really good undercard as well. So, you know, I'll definitely be here to cover the fight live Saturday night. What's up, Kano Loco? What's up, everyone in the chat? Mayoa was good with you. AO was happening. So this weekend on Showtime pay-per-view, you got Canelo Alvarez and Jamel Charlo with a great undercard. I will put the breakdown to that fight tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow at some point in the day. It's already recorded, but I will probably upload it tomorrow. Okay. So be on the lookout for the full breakdown for that fight. If you haven't seen it already, I already did like a mini breakdown, and I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna do like a pre-breakdown before the full breakdown, simply because the pre-breakdown is gonna have me talking about a lot more than just the what these guys do in the ring. You know what I mean? Where I get to talk about all access, or what I can talk about rumors or things that the fans have been talking about, you know, some of the drama leading into the fight. Plus, I get to talk about the fight itself. But then I'm going to do an actual breakdown the week of a fight. And I'm going to try to continue doing that. I did that for Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. I mean, I did 1,000 videos on that fight, but I actually did a breakdown before the breakdown. And I'm going to continue doing that for certain fights, bigger fights. All right. But yeah, that has a phenomenal undercard, and I will give you a breakdown for the undercard fights as well. But that will probably be under one video. You know, I'll probably do prediction videos instead of doing full thorough, because there's a lot of it's gonna be a lot of fights this week, you know, and I'm gonna do my best to do as many predictions this week as possible. I do want to talk about Jesus Ramos against Erickson Lubin. I do want to talk about your Dennis Ugas against Mario Barrios as well. All right. Because those fights are going to be on that undercard for Showtime. Then we got Jai Opetaia against Jordan Thompson, which is a very good fight. That's going to be on DAZN on the 30th as well this Saturday. But that'll be, I'm assuming that's going to be earlier in the day, you know, because that fight is probably either on British soil or it's going to be out in Australia or something like that. So I'll do a video on that as well. Pretty good fight. And so there's a fight between, and I looked it up today. I was trying to find it. There's a fight between Otto Wallin and Murat Gassiev. All right. And I don't know if that fight is going to be televised. I looked it up today. I couldn't find anything on it. I know the fight is out in Turkey. It's going to be early in the day. But I'm not seeing anything about anyone broadcasting it here in America. So Yeah, man. I don't know if I'm gonna be covering that fight at all Saturday, but if not, if I can't find it live, then I will be doing a post fight video of the fight as soon as it's over and I can get a link to it and watch it myself. All right, so I might not be able to cover that fight. I know a lot of people don't know about that fight. I know a lot of people probably don't care, but it's actually a pretty solid fight. All right. And that'll be it. All right. And then we'll go on for the next weekend. But busy, big Saturday, a lot of fights going down. Make sure you are here. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tune in for the fights coming up this Saturday. All right. Shout out to everyone in the chat again. Bedoy, what's up, Mr. Mel Alper? Uh C. Connell says he was at the fight last night. That's what's up. Oh, yeah, you're down in Florida. That makes sense. That what's up. Hope you had a good time. I enjoyed watching the Conor Benn fight for sure. I think that fight was pretty good. What was the earlier fights? I know there was the first fight. Pretty much every fight went the distance last night. I can't remember what the first fight was that they tell. Oh, yeah, it was the Ammo Williams fight where, again, I was talking about Ammo earlier in the well, while I was covering the fight, and then it's like I'm not seeing improvements with him. Like he's good, but on a championship level, I'm not sure. And I believe that middleweight is a kind of weaker division right now. You know what I mean? I'm not sure who's the best there. Um, I'm not even sure who's willing to fight each other there at this point, but it's not a strong division right now. But the thing about Ammo, I'm just not seeing the improvements. He comes out fast. He's very explosive. But once things start slowing down, you fight a guy like Experience with Steve Rose, the fight became very, very competitive, and it's like, again, he's good, but I'm not seeing much. I want to say in the past 5 fights or so, it's like he's good, but I want to see improvement. I want to see a little bit more from him, and I haven't been able to see that. Um, all right. Uh AO says he missed the live stream. Shame on you for missing my live stream. I did see you here last night, though. I know you was checking in a couple of times. He said he was searching the internet for Zhang against Joyce. Yeah, man. Crazy, crazy knockout last night. Crazy knockout. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it a little later in this live. All right, but listen, we're gonna start out with the Hitchins fight. Okay, we're gonna start out with their um Hitchins fought Jose Zepeda, and it was a clear win for Hitchins. I don't remember what the scorecards were, but it was a clear win for him. Um, Very boring fight, and I want to apologize, man, because every once in a while I'm going to be extremely tired. It's going to be late, like last night. I covered already. I have already covered the Zhang Joyce card, so I was kind of tired last night. But again, Hitchins is very good. But you heard it from him during the fight. Even his corner was trying to get him to push it a little harder. And he said he felt, he knew that Joyce, again, not Joyce, he knew that Zepeda had the experience, had the power, and he didn't want to take any chances. And he stuck to what he was doing. You know what I mean? He was clearly outboxing him. There was very few moments where he started to really open up. I know that after the headbutts, all right, the accidental headbutts, it wasn't no intention behind any of the headbutts, but Zepeda got the worst of the head clashes in that fight. He had a gash on the top of his head in his hair, and later there was a second headbutt that caused a cut above his right eye, and the blood started streaming into his eye, and that's when Hitchens started to open up a little bit more. Listen, man, I can't get mad at the kid, for playing it safe and staying disciplined. He's trying to win, and he's not trying to please the crowd. You know what I mean? He's not trying to do any of that. He's trying to win every fight. He's a safety first fighter. He's a defensive fighter, and he's not looking to take any reckless chances on trying to force a knockout. There were periods in there when he started to explode a little bit. We've seen some combinations, but he really fought a extremely disciplined, cautious fight, and that's the way he's gonna be. Maybe at some point, we can get him to be a little bit more explosive on the offensive level, but for now, he's extremely defensive, and that's just the way it is. You know, maybe at some point he starts to sit down on his punches a little bit more or whatever, but um, it is what it is. He's quick, he's fast, he's got great defense. But he's gonna go the distance, and he's not gonna change the game plan to please the crowd, or the fans. This is something that's been a long time thing with him. I do think he's getting better though. He's improved a lot, and being that this was his biggest test, fight is Zepeda. And like I said last night, and the same thing with Joyce. Zepeda, Joyce taking these losses. Zepeda had lost a pro grade recently too. Um, don't sleep on them. They will still knock people out. All right. They just lost to people that are better, and it is what it is. But don't get it twisted. They will still knock people out. Hitchins, not Richardson Hitchins is just a phenomenal defensive talent. And he's not going to take many risks there. It's not like he was running. It's just offensively, we didn't see much. It's not like he was trying to stop. He was winning clear, and he didn't want to take any additional chances. He didn't want to get hit, and he fought that way. And it is what it is. Zepeda still going to be a problem for other fighters, but right now it's looking like Zepeda is going to be a gatekeeper. All the younger guys on a come up, you know, they're gonna have to go through him. You know what I mean? He's still dangerous, but at this point, it's clear that he is a gatekeeper. Maybe we'll get a rematch with Jose Ramirez at some point, or something like that. But to the top tier, or the guys that's moving up from 135, I can see a lot of those fighters challenging him at some point. You know what I mean? It's no different from what's his guy name? Uh, who's the guy that Devin Haney fought? Um, Former champion. Haney fought him. Lomachenko fought him. Everybody fought him, and everybody's going to continue. Jorge Linares. It's going to be just like that. Jorge Linares had a lot of title defenses at 135, went a long way, very powerful. You know what I mean? People are going to take those challenges on to come up, or guys coming off of losses, they're going to take those kind of challenges. And that's exactly what it looks like Zepeda is going to do. But again, don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. He will still knock you out, man. He's very powerful. Not everybody's as slippery as a Richardson Hitchins. You know what I mean? A lot of these other guys will get knocked out if they go in there the wrong way. You know what I mean? Yeah, Jack Catterall is going to fight Linares, and I think Jack Catterall is going to beat him for sure. Even possibly stop him. Thank you, Sweet Science Report. Appreciate that. He says, shout out to Wade, one of the truest in the boxing game. Appreciate that, man. But yeah, Hitchins, he calls out Teofimo Lopez, which is expected. Hitchins is from Brooklyn. Teofimo, I think Teofimo might have been born in Brooklyn. I know he's really from Florida, but I know he fights here in New York a lot. I think his family is from Brooklyn or something. So that would be cool. Teo fought up here in New York. I've seen him a couple of times here in New York. Promote the fight as a Brooklyn fight, and let them fight here. You know what I mean? If Hitchins is high ranked in a few of the sanctioning bodies, you can see he had like last night he had like a WBC, IBF, and I believe a WBO title, something like that. So He's going to be in position to fight for a title. I know he wanted to fight Montana Love, but Montana Love backed out of the fight. I think he would beat Montana Love. I just think he would outslick him. He doesn't have the biggest power, but it's going to be hard to beat him on points, especially because these guys are not going to be, these guys are never, it's not going to be able to really touch him like that. I think Hitchins would have issues against aggressive fighters like Gary Russell, and maybe Sabrio Matias. I think those are the fighters that would be tough for Hitchins. I think Tio, I think he has a good chance of beating Tio, just because of his speed and his defense. He would give him just, if not more trouble than Sandor Martin did. Sandor Martin's still dangerous. He's another guy that I feel like would beat a lot of people, and he arguably, I went to that fight with Tio in December. He arguably beat Tio. That was a very close fight. With the knockdown and everything like that. Yeah, he's not an action-packed fighter. He's not a fan. He's not, it's not easy on the eye for people that want action and slugfest. But again, when it comes to getting those points and winning the rounds, Hitchins is going to be hard to beat. I compared him and some of the other guys that's similar to him to Shakur Stevenson. I think that at one point Shakur has given us some fight, like the Nate Tataya or whatever. There are fighters like him, fights like him, where Shakur, it seemed like a snoozer because Shakur didn't want to really take any chances. But Shakur has improved dramatically, and Shakur, whether he stops you or not, he's beating you offensively and defensively. He can sit in the pocket with you and beat you at your own game. And this is what makes him above everybody to me, and I think he's the best to watch. I don't think he has the biggest power, but he's making really good boxers look average with his defense and his offense. I think Hitchins on an offense from a defensive end, he's there. But from an offensive end, I think we got to see a little bit more. You know what I mean? When he fights a lower level fighters offensively, he looks great. But you can see here in this fight, when he steps up, let's say he fights a Ramirez or a Teofimo Lopez or whoever, you're gonna see him be more cautious in some of these fights. Um, the rival chronicle says Hitchens steps with every jab. Then Tio catches him with like Richard Come. I see that. I can see that. I can see that. But Come don't quite have the reflexes as Hitchens. He does step in, but he also has the reflexes to see what's being thrown back at him. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure if you could catch him quite the same way. But again, I think there's levels to Tio's game. And we can see, like, it really depends. Tio's a type of fighter. It really depends on his approach to the fight. Uh, when he fought Lomachenko, when he fights Josh Taylor, you know what I mean? His approach to the fight, it definitely has a lot of weight on the outcome of the fight. You know what I mean? Sort of about being smart, strategy, knowing what needs to be done, how to prepare for the fight, and going along with it. We learned that in George Kambosos. I swear, if they were to ever have a rematch, Tio would probably have dominated him. But we could only judge things based on what we saw, and because of the very reckless way that he fought that fight, he paid for it and ended up losing to the inferior fighter, in my opinion. And that's part of the game. Part of the game. So I think Tio, if he were to fight a Hitchins, I think he would come at his best. I mean, you're fighting a really slippery fighter. Now I think he would struggle still though, but I think Tio is like one of those fighters where I'm like, it really depends on how they approach the fight, because he can look great or he can look average. He's proven to me that he can really do everything. But the styles make fights, and uh Hitchins is very quick and he's very good defensively. All right. Um, so yeah, I don't know who we're gonna see, but I would like to see him against another top tier fighter at this point. Beating Zepeda clear like that. I think he's deserving of either a title shot or a shot against a top contender, another one. All right, all right. Let's talk about. Let's talk about. Should we talk about Conor Benn? Let's talk about Conor Benn. Conor Benn for Rodolfo Orozco. All right, he goes up to 154. This fight, I forgot while I was watching the fight. I forgot that fight was at 154. All right, and he's been looking and targeting, Chris Eubank. He's even called out Triple G. He's made some comments like he's targeting the 160 division. This fight was here in Florida. Okay, this was on the undercard of the Hitchins fight. And this guy Orozco was tough. He was clearly much bigger, or at least much taller than Ben. No, he was bigger. He was bigger. You can tell he was just a bigger guy. Ben is short. He's usually shorter than everybody he fought at 147. Orozco was no joke, man. Conor from the first round was landing bombs. All right, that he stopped the same punches that he landed against Chris Algieri, all these other guys, Herndon and who else? Samuel Vargas, all these guys he knocked out at 147. We saw those same punches landed in this fight last night against Orozco, but he's fighting a much bigger guy. And it just didn't have the effect. He hurt him a few times. Orozco had a swelling under his right eye. He backed him up at times, but Orozco did fine. What's good, Young Hollywood? He did fine, and he actually came back. He was able to muscle Conor against the ropes at times. He landed a lot of right hands. He landed his own shots. Conor never seemed to be hurt, but he did take a lot of punches from a guy that has a pretty good knockout ratio. Now, Orozco has no fights outside of Mexico. From what I saw, his whole career he's been fighting in Mexico against lower tier guys. So his resume and those knockouts, is a little padded, because he's not fighting top tier guys. His last fight, for him to have nearly 40 professional fight, he fought a guy that only had 7 professional fights in his last fight. You know what I mean? But he was big, and it was a good comeback fight for Conor. Conor has been out of the ring. He has all this stuff with the British Boxing Board of Control, and his PED thing is still going. He currently cannot fight in the UK. So this is why he was on the undercard of this Hitchins Zepeda fight. Conor looked the same. He was moving his head like he normally was. He likes to duck under the move his head. He likes to get in close. He doesn't have a long reach. He's a short guy, so he likes to get underneath guys by moving his head and ducking low and countering, coming up underneath you, getting on your chest and exploding, throwing combinations. He uses his jab mainly as a range, a way to get in and close the gap and getting up on you and throwing bombs. You know what I mean? Very, very fast, very, very explosive. And I don't know if the Eubank fight is going to happen. Obviously, if that fight happens now, it can't be in the UK until they clear up this whole thing with this PD thing. I haven't followed it. There was a point where I was following it early on, and then I just stopped. I just stopped because at some point, I just want to hear the verdict. What are you guys going to do? Is he suspended or is he cleared? Right now he's sort of in the middle. You know what I mean? So I want them to finish doing whatever they do. I'm not going to keep making content and giving you updates on whether or not he's cleared. He's not cleared, and I can't give you guys anything. I can't keep following, reading all of these. It's just too much. You know what I mean? Is he good to go or is he not good to go? What I will say is that, yeah, I suspect there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that doesn't seem right. But he's currently able to box outside of the UK. So that's that. But as far as what I saw from him, he looked exactly the same, and he fought 10 rounds at a high level. And he looked good to me. It's just that he couldn't stop this guy. Some people are gonna suggest that he didn't stop him because he wasn't on PEDs. And some are gonna say that the guy he fought is just durable. The guy he fought, Roscoe, had 3 losses, but he's never been stopped before. I don't know if he's ever been knocked down or not. I did look on his record on what's it called, BoxRec. I didn't see any knockdowns listed. I know this thing is not 100% accurate, but he might have just really legit fought a guy that has a tough chin. You know what I mean? No matter what, he just couldn't get him out of there. And it is what it is, But some people are going to suggest that he couldn't knock him down because he didn't have PEDs. Well, if he's not on the PEDs, he still looked exactly the same. He still moved the same. He still had the same kind of speed. He still, his cardio was good. I don't know, man. I think he looked the same to me. I just think the only difference is he couldn't knock the guy out. All right. But he was doing everything. He looked exactly the same, if not even better, So we just got to just go. That's just my take on Conor Benn for now. Him going to 160 now and fighting Chris Eubank Jr., I honestly don't know who's going to win that fight. But I will say this. I like this current version of Eubank Jr. better than the Roy Jones version of him. Now, I wasn't sure before about who would win that fight when the fight was supposed to go down. But now that Eubank beat Liam Smith and looked the way he did, the way he won that fight, I thought that was the best version of Eubank that I've seen, period. There's been a lot of versions of him. There's been a lot of transitions with him, from the earlier fights with like Billy Joe Saunders, to the World Boxing Super Series tournament, up to getting with Roy, all right, and changing his style. And now getting with Bomac and changing his style once again. I thought his style, and I know people could say Liam Smith wasn't his best. He's old. I'm talking about what I'm seeing Eubank doing in the ring that night. The way he was leading, using that lead jab. I love the uppercuts from distance. The timing. I like the way Eubank was fighting. I think that this is the best version of him. And I think for the remainder, and hopefully Bomac gets out for his personal sake, not even just as a trainer, but Bomac, if he beats this case, most likely he's not going to be able to go back to the UK. So I don't know if that's going to work out for Bomac and for Chris Eubank, but I think that Chris Eubank and his style right now is the best version of him. Win or lose, if he loses to Conor Benn or to anyone else, I'm just going on record and saying that this is the right way of him fighting. I don't think he's unstoppable or anything like that, but I think this is his current best version. Conor Benn is different because Conor Benn is different from Liam Smith. So even though he dominated Liam Smith, Conor Benn, like again, he's a shorter guy that likes to get low and he moves his head a lot. He's moving his head a lot and he's getting in range to throw these hooks, and he's fast and he's explosive and he's probably quicker. I know he's smaller. I know he's shorter, but he's quicker than all of these guys that Eubank has been facing. When I look at Billy Joe, southpaw, slick, but more of a guy that doesn't really have much of an inside game. Eubank was able to outwork him in the second half of their fight. It's a different type of fighter. When I look at Saunders, when I look at Groves, when I look at Liam Williams or Liam Smith, these guys don't have any similarities to Conor Benn's style. So even though Eubank looked great in that last fight, he's going to have issues with keeping Conor Benn at a distance, but what I like is the way that I seen him time that uppercut as guys try to get in on him. It won't be as easy with Conor Benn because he's constantly moving his head, all right, and he's getting real low and he's really short. So it's going to be a different fight, but I like the fight right now, and I hope there isn't a catchweight. If Conor Benn really want to take this fight, go to 160. Let's not make any catchweight. We don't want to see anyone drained for a fight. I know Eubank has been saying like, yo, you lost that privilege after this whole PED fiasco. So I don't know if he's gonna stand on his word by not making it a catchweight. I don't want there to be any excuses. If Conor Benn is going to be the smaller guy agreeing to go up to 160 and fight him. You know what I mean? Just go and do it. And that's my stance on it. Shout out to everyone that's coming in. Make sure you guys smash the like button, man. Don't forget to do that. Hit the thumbs up for me real quick. And also subscribe if you are new. All right. But I'm not sure where I'm going with that fight. I'm not sure. I can see Eubank winning. I can see Conor Benn winning as well. Conor is very, very, very athletic, man. Very explosive. He's so fast, and he's smaller, but he's so fast, and he moves his head so well. And watching him last night didn't make me feel that there was any difference in the way that he fights at all, but Eubank looked great in his last fight, and I like from a technical standpoint, I love the way Eubank fought. This fight, they should make the fight, but I think the fight is a better fight right now than it was before. I think the fight is better now than it was before. So I'm looking forward to them making that fight. Of course, if it was up to me, the fight makes sense from a legacy standpoint because you got, Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank Sr., of course they're fighting each other because they're the sons of those two legends. So from that standpoint, I understand, but I really want to see Conor Benn and fight the best fighters at his division, and I always say this before these fighters jump up 2 divisions, can you even beat the best in your division? And I've said this about everybody. I've said this about everybody. All these guys is jumping up, at least with Jamel, he's going to jump up 2 weight classes to fight Canelo, but at least he's proven to be the best in his division. So I don't think it's as bad as a Mikey Garcia or that moved up to fight Spence or what's this other guy that fought Triple G, Kell Brook. So Conor, I understand it. There's a bag when it comes to that, but are they going to have the fight? The fight doesn't make sense if they're not going to be fighting in the UK? It doesn't really make sense. I don't think they should fight. They shouldn't fight in America or anywhere else in that for that matter. They should be fighting on British soil. That's where they're from. So I don't know how that's going to work out because I do want to see the fight, but they're not going to sell tickets here. The people here don't even know who they are. The only people that are going to go are hardcore fans, maybe that are local, or some fans from the UK is going to fly out and watch the fight, but they're not going to sell tickets like that here. They need to have that fight over there. So hopefully Conor and whatever his situation, hopefully he clears it up. If not, I don't know, man. Yeah, Conor Benn has done nothing at 147. I agree with you, Sporty Sport. But Eubank ain't no champion either. Currently. I know he's fought. I believe he was like an interim champ or a junior champ up at 168. But he's not a champion either. You know what I mean? He didn't fight the top fighters. He was supposed to fight. We thought he was gonna fight Jamal at one point, Jamal Charlo at one point. But he's fought some top tier guys, but he lost to Eubank. He lost to Groves. He got stopped by Liam Smith in their first fight. I mean, Kell Brook was a champion. Like you said, Mikey Garcia was a multi-division champion. Jamel Charlo right now is undisputed. Eubank is not on the level of those guys. You know what I mean? He didn't prove more than those guys did. So we can make the argument. They're just and I'll end this with Conor Benn. I can see Conor Benn the way he's moving and calling out these bigger guys like at 160 and stuff. I feel like he's gonna be like Tank Davis. He has a name, and I think he's gonna be one of those guys that's gonna be just moving around and chasing the bag and a name for fights. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's looking to unify and make all these legacy fights based on like titles. I think he's going to be like Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia. He's going to be UK version of that. He's so popular out there. He's so known out there that he's not going to be chasing champions, and he's not going to fight Boots. He's not going to be fighting Stan Jonas. He's just not going to do it. And Eubank is doing that too. What champions is Eubank really chasing? You know what I mean? He's just trying to make the money. He's not trying to be unified and all this stuff. He's not trying to do that. He's not fighting Janibek. He wasn't going to fight Andrade when he was at 160. He didn't fight Jamal. I'm sure there was a point where he didn't want to fight Triple G. He's calling him out now, but there was a point he didn't want to fight Triple G. You know what I mean? So he's more looking for low risk, high reward type of thing. And at this point, he's 34 years old. So he's really just looking for the bag. And I think certain fighters, as long as they stand by it, I don't have a problem. Like, just don't hold any belt hostage. I said this recently about Tyson Fury, man. If you don't really want to, you don't care about unifying, you going out and openly say you don't care about Undisputed. If you don't care about any of that shit, don't hold the belt hostage, man. You got a name. You don't need the belt to fight Francis Ngannou. You don't have that. You don't need a belt, period. I said this the other day. I said, go on and fight Derek Chisora for another 3 times. Go on and fight whoever you want. You don't need the title. You don't care for legacy and all that. You care about the money. Cool. So go fight who you want to fight without holding a belt hostage. Eubank is not one of those guys. Conor Benn is starting to seem like he's not one of those guys. All right. He just fought at 154. For what? A tune-up to see if he can hang with Eubank at 160. He didn't fight at 54 to prepare for a Boots Ennis or a Stan Jonas. He's not looking at those guys. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it is what it is. All right, so Zhang stops Joyce in the third round. Stops him, destroys him. One of the best KOs of the year. All right. What do I think? Well, it really depends on who's next. You know, because if Fury actually fights Usyk, which I don't expect anymore, but if he actually takes the fight, there'll be fight for undisputed. So that fight will be off the table. So if those two are not available for Zhang, you know, obviously everyone in the heavyweight division wants a piece of one of those two, you know, especially Fury because he's the bigger star. So if those two are off the table, if that fight is off the table for Zhang, I would love to see AJ. You know, Eddie Hearn came out and said that this is an intriguing fight. AJ has always wanted that fight. There was actually talks about that in the past. Okay, that a possibility of AJ fighting Zhang. So I would like Zhang to fight AJ. I would like Zhang to fight Ruiz or Wilder, any top tier heavyweight that is not currently having a title is all good for me. If he can't secure any of these fights because he's with, you know, whatever promoter or a network, if he can't secure any of those fights, get that rematch in with Philip Hrgović. Get that rematch in. You know, because Hrgović is Amanda, I believe he's like the IBF interim champ or something like that. Hrgović is at the top of the list. And now so is Zhang. Zhang is like the WBO interim champ. So at this point, get that rematch in. If you can't get Usyk, if you can't get Fury, if you can't get AJ, if you can't get Wilder, and if you can't get Andy Ruiz, run that fight with Hrgović back. A lot of people feel you won that fight. So run it back. You know, Hrgović, nobody's going to be lining up to fight him. High risk, low reward. Same with Zhang. High risk, low reward. You know, now that Zhang knocked out Joyce, his buzz is going up. But it's going up, and probably not in a way that people are going to be more willing to face him after that performance. You know, Hrgović, yeah, Sporty Sports said Hrgović said he wants his Mando shot and won't be taking any more step aside money. All right, well, there we go. There we go. You know, and if that's true, now I wouldn't want that to get in the way of Usyk and Fury. You know, but if Fury is not going to fight him, then Usyk is going to have to do what he has to do as long as he's holding on to those belts. So unfortunately, I know he wants it for his legacy, but it takes two to tangle. And if Fury doesn't want the fight, I don't know. I don't know what the WBC is going to do. I'm assuming WBC is going to let him do whatever he wants to do. You know what I mean? So I really don't know what to expect here. But Zhang against AJ would be great. You know, I talked a little bit about that last night. You know, I know Zhang has the power to hurt AJ. But AJ is good at fighting southpaws. He has a lot of experience with them. And he's not Joe Joyce. We already knew what Joe Joyce's flaws been his whole career. It's just no one has exposed him because he's overwhelmed all of these fighters with his volume and his power and his cardio. You know, he was just too much for these guys. And there are fights where he didn't look so good. You know, I think the what's this guy's name? I brought him up earlier or yesterday. I brought him up. Let me look up his Joyce. Let's look up his resume. All right. Yeah, Brian Jennings did well. Brian Jennings was actually able to hurt him to the body. You know, it's just that Brian Jennings don't have big knockout power like that. You know what I mean? But Jennings was able to hurt him and go the distance with him. You know, he had a little bit of success early in that fight. But yeah, all these other guys really didn't have anything for him. You know, and Zhang was just stylistically wrong, all wrong. You know, and sometimes some fighters are just gonna have your number. Just like I said about Zepeda earlier, Joyce can still beat a lot of those top 10 fighters. You know what I mean? It's just that Zhang is a very, very big man with a great boxing ability, and he's a southpaw, and he has one punch knockout power. And Joyce's head was right there to get hit. You know, Joyce could not avoid it. It was either the straight left or the right hook or both. You know what I mean? This guy, he was never going to beat this guy. You know, Joyce said he's not going to retire. He's going to take a little break. But he can't take too long of a break because I believe he's like 38 years old. You know what I mean? So he can't take too long of a break. But I still believe that Joyce knocks a lot of people out. All right. He stops a lot of guys. You know, but Zhang was a guy that was able to stand right in front of him and outbox him and hit him with power and accuracy. You know what I mean? Joyce had no answer for that. So Joyce, take your break, but don't go too long without it. You know what I mean? You got to get back in there because there are still fights available for him. I'm a believer. I'm a believer that most fighters are still not, even with that loss. I'm a believer that most fighters are still not going to want to fight him. They're still not going to want to fight him because most of these fighters can't do what Zhang did. And most fighters are not going to want to take that risk. You know what I mean? I actually see a lot of fighters more willing to fight Zhang over Joyce. Still. You know what I mean? Because Zhang is a little older. Zhang has shown major stamina issues in the past. You know, and a lot of these guys are better at fighting southpaws than Joyce is. You know what I mean? And AJ is one of them. AJ, Wilder, you know, Andy Ruiz. They've been in there with the likes of, you know, Luis Ortiz and other southpaws that are better, you know, or you know, are good. You know what I mean? So I would like to see the AJ fight. I don't know if they're gonna do it. But I would like to see an AJ fight. I would like to see a Hrgovic rematch or any of those other names that I stated earlier. They're all good. You know what I mean? They're all good. But we just gotta wait and see. Like I said yesterday, and I went on it was a period in the video on the live that I kind of went on a talk about this generation of heavyweights and, you know, the next class of heavyweights, the current, you know, guys on the come up. There are no real potential superstars there like that. And this is why I want this current generation guys to finish out this their career strong, because you know, whoever we didn't get to see fight out of Usyk, Joshua, Wilder, Ruiz, and Fury, these guys got to get in there, you know, because you know, you want to pay, you want this next generation to start getting in there with each other as well. I know these guys don't have much time. A lot of them only have a few more fights to go, probably a few more, 2, maybe 3 years tops to go. But there's no clear superstar for the next generation, and you got Dubois, you got Jared Anderson. Um, it's not many people there. Dubois, Jared Anderson, you got Franklin. What else you got? You got Jalilov. You got a lot of guys that's just there's good talent there with them, but none of these guys are gonna be stars. So I would like you got Fabio Wardley. These guys, Arslan Beck, these guys are good, but they're not, like I don't know. So I would like to see Fury is about his bag. And if he doesn't fight Usyk, the only other top tier boxer that I can see him fighting in the future is Anthony Joshua, because he could still make a lot of money from that fight. You know what I mean? They could still sell out a stadium with that fight. Even if Joshua loses again at some point, I see them still selling out a stadium with that. So if he's gonna fight another boxer again, I can see it being Anthony Joshua again Anthony Joshua at some point. But I really don't understand why Wilder and Ruiz can't get it going. I don't know why they can't work something out. So I don't really know, man. This next generation is just Frank Sanchez is good. He's gonna be around a little bit, but he's not young. But yeah, I guess he's with the next generation. But as far as his professional career, but he's not young. So he needs something to happen soon. They have him listed as 31. I don't think he's really 31. You know what I mean? I think he's probably maybe a couple years, at least 3 or 4 years older. But I don't think he's 30. I honestly don't believe he's 31. He might be, but I don't think he is. Yeah, so Sporty Sports says, what do I think of ATO Moses Atuma? He's trying to break Tyson Fury's youngest heavyweight record. Have I seen this guy? Let me look him up. Oh, I've seen this guy. I've seen this guy. I just can't remember what I've seen him on. I think he was at the Wembley when I went out there to fight, watch the Anthony Yard fight. Yeah, okay. That was his I thought he was cool. I saw him. I was like, he's good. I haven't watched him since that his first professional fight. I only seen him that one fight in the arena that day, but I thought he was cool. I mean, that's all I got. I got to see a little bit more of him. I didn't see the undercard yesterday because they wasn't showing it on ESPN, and I didn't know it was on YouTube. So I didn't watch. I haven't seen him again since that first fight, but I remembered him seeing him there in the Wembley arena. All right, not the stadium. That fight on the Yard better BF undercard. So I remember seeing him there, and he's pretty popular out there because when I seen him when he came out, the crowd was really hyped and amped in his fight. But I didn't know who he was until that night. All right, but he looked good, but I gotta watch him more. I gotta keep my eye on him. All right. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Joyce, on the other hand, again, he got to come back. Got to pick up a win. Again, just don't stay out too long. I don't know who would be willing to fight him in the future, but he clearly had a, somebody brought up Tony Yoka, getting that rematch. I'm sure he would love to have that fight. But Tony Yoka, he just hasn't made it to that top tier point. He was dominated by Bacoli. I know that he would love to get the opportunity to run that back because I do think Joyce won the that Olympic fight. But Joyce is still leagues above Tony Yoka, in my opinion. Even with that loss. All right. But there should be other fights for him out there. I don't necessarily believe that he's completely broken because of that loss. I just thought he fought a guy that had his number. All right. And no matter what, he was going to lose to. All right. All right. So anyway, that's it for me today, man. I'm going to get on out of here, man. Y'all have a good day. Please, again, if you are new, subscribe to the channel. Please hit the thumbs up on your way out. Be on the lookout for content. I should have the breakdown for Charlo and Canelo out by tomorrow. And got a lot of content because there's a lot of fights going on this weekend. So be on the lookout for more content this week. Okay. So I'm out. See you guys later. Peace.